Hola.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the last presentation of Tuesday. This is the presentation. I don't speak about GeneXus. I speak about things that were relevant throughout the year, that are important for the GeneXus community. And my intention is always very clear: to give you food for thought. I have some other intentions as well this evening. I'll talk about Bitcoins, and one of the reasons why I want to speak about Bitcoins is that many of you are being asked about the Bitcoins. People think that if we work in IT, we need to know about Bitcoin. So people will come to you saying, I don't understand what this is about. Can you explain this to me? So today, after my presentation, I want you to have a clear picture of what the Bitcoins really are. Mainly because I think that if we read the press, it's impossible to understand what's going on. If you read the press, you always read bad news about the Bitcoins and drug traffickers, Bitcoins and companies that went bust, and they are always negative news. So if you read the press, you will not understand what's really going on. The third reason why I'm here, there's something that happened to me many times. I lived through many technological revolutions, and the way people tell the story after the winner is known, the people tell a different story. After IBM PC, we knew that IBM was going to win the battle of PCs. Then the web, and it was clear that web was going to win over Gopher. And when I lived through it, the reality was different. During the events, we were not that clear that web was better than Gopher, or that the competitors would lead IBM to win. So I would like to take this opportunity to see what happens when the revolution is generated, when we do not know who the winner will be. How do we feel about it? I'm not going to tell you the story by anticipating that we know who the winner is. I will tell the story from its very origin. So sometimes people think that I spend the whole day looking for new things, and that's not true. I'm not thinking about this all day long. I'm surrounded by new things, but I'm not desperate looking for new things. There's always something curious that really convinces me that I have to read more about the subject. And regarding the Bitcoins, I read something in a paper that said if you sell Bitcoins, the engineers like that and the economists hate them. And that trapped me, really. I had to keep on reading. I said, I need to understand why engineers love the Bitcoins and economists hate them. I have a sound idea why engineers like Bitcoins, but I have a more or less reasonable idea as to why economists don't like Bitcoins. And I presented this to 7 or 6 economists. Only one of them liked the idea. The rest hated it. But I also discovered that engineers like it, economists don't, but accountants, when accountants realize what Bitcoins are, they will love them. So let me tell you about how I reached that conclusion. It all started with this here, Satoshi Nakamoto, with this gentleman. I didn't bring the photo because nobody has Satoshi Nakamoto's photo. Nobody knows who he is. It's a person who wrote the specifications for the Bitcoins. He wrote most of what we know about the open source of Bitcoin in the year 2009. In 2010, he said that he was no longer interested in the subject, and in 2011, he was wiped out of this planet. Nobody knows if he's alive or dead. The only thing we know is that he has and I will tell you why we know this precisely. He has 1 million bitcoins, which is about 400 million US dollars. Satoshi Nakamoto has a fortune of $400 million, and he never touched one bitcoin. He didn't buy a Ferrari, he didn't buy a mansion, he didn't spend the money. And I know why with accuracy, and why I will tell you why I know why he didn't spend it. But Satoshi Nakamoto, when I tried to understand what the bitcoins was all about, I said, well, he wrote a paper. He wrote a paper in 2009. It's a paper that consists of 9 pages. So I read the 9 pages by Satoshi Nakamoto. It was 9 pages full of drawings. It was easy to understand. I would have tried to read Don Quixote in Arabic, and I would have understood more than I understood the 9 pages. I couldn't get a clue of what he was saying. I could not even understand the drawings. It was very cryptic. Satoshi naturally was an expert in cryptography, but I was lucky enough of meeting other people who had devoted more time to understand what Satoshi meant in his 9 pages. I remember when Code wrote a paper that nobody understood, and some people were there to explain what he meant. So this was something similar. Some people devoted their time to try to understand what Satoshi meant in his writing. So I will try to convey to you this interesting part. What Satoshi wanted to do was create a digital coin. But there is a basic problem that's very important with digital coins. Imagine that I have a physical coin, $1. And imagine that I have this dollar and I want to give it to Gaston Sardina. The operation is very easy. I give my dollar to Gaston Sardina, he keeps the dollar, and I no longer have it. Material things in nature are scarce. I either have it or he has it. They are in only one place. That's a perfect property in one coin. The coin is only in one place. I had it, now he has it. Now imagine that I don't want to give Gaston $1. I want to give him a song that is in MP3 format, and I send an email with a song. I send it, he's going to receive the song, but I will still have it. That is to say, digital goods in nature are abundant. Material things in nature are scarce. Digital goods by nature are abundant. It's fantastic to copy music, but it's terrible in the case of currency. If I had said that the song was value $1, he had the dollar, but I still had the dollar, and that's not a currency. So the problem is how to solve a digital coin so it is not spent twice. One will have it, or the other will have it, but not both. That was the key issue that Satoshi wanted to solve. But the world had solved it already. That's not a problem for the world. Look at this. If I want to transfer $1 to Gaston, Gaston is going to be my assistant. Don't leave because you will change my scheme. Yeah, I will have a problem if you leave, but then stay. If I want to give you, Gaston, $1 electronically, I can do that today. I don't need Satoshi. How do I do it? I tell a central entity to authorize this, and I just tell this to a bank or a credit card company. I said, I want to transfer this dollar. This institution will check to see if I have that dollar, and if I have it, it will send it to Gaston, and that works. Okay? Now, see what Satoshi wanted to do. He wanted to do exactly the same, but without a central authority. How can I manage to do this without a bank in the middle? How can I transfer a digital money or currency without a bank in the middle? And he invented something that's great, that never existed before. Whether you like it or not, it did not exist before. The only person that thought about it was Satoshi Nakamoto. And he explains how to transfer electronic money without a central authority. This is something strange. This is a new world. Let me tell you how it happens. Again, I have this coin that I want to give to Gaston. But remember, when I wanted to give him in the traditional way, I tell the bank I want to give him $1. The bank authorizes that and gives him the $1. But now I'm not going to give you $1. I'm going to give you a Bitcoin. If I want to give you a Bitcoin, there is a network of Bitcoins. And I'm going to tell everybody, this is not private to the bank. This is open. I'm telling everybody that I want to send a Bitcoin to Gaston. Everybody will know about it. So what's going to happen? There will be more people who will try to be the first in authorizing, in checking that the transaction is valid. Instead of having one central authority, Satoshi said, let's have thousands of people authorizing the transaction, competing in a speedy race, so the first one to authorize the transaction gets a prize. What is the prize? Guess. 25 Bitcoins. I'm not going to translate your expression, but see what he achieved. This gentleman up there, that's my drawing capacity, graphic design. This is what Satoshi calls the miners. The name is wrong. It's wrong. It's not a good example. But these people are called the miners. That is to say, people, they are really machines, but they are fighting because when there is a transaction, they are desperate to validate. Yes, do you have this Bitcoin? This should not be a trap for the system, and I want to check that Gaston will get it. So they will fight, and the first one to solve the fight will win. Now, Satoshi, there's a key problem here. One of the things that I can do is agree and with other miners like Mariano Brogan, who tell me, I don't have the Bitcoin, but you are miners, you agree, and I try to transmit my Bitcoin because some miners are not behaving well. Nobody can guarantee that the miners will behave. Anyone can be a miner, so they could be cheating. So the problem was how to solve the problem of cheating miners. And he solved it in a fantastic way. They not only have to authorize that I have the Bitcoin and they don't have it, but in order to say that, they have to solve a hash function. It's a mathematical puzzle that takes 10 minutes before it's solved. It takes 10 minutes to solve. So what we have here, this takes 10 minutes. There are 9 pages in Satoshi's paper explaining why no one can cheat the system because they need to solve that problem first, unless they have, well, the capacity in their computers. But let me make a long story short. If you have to solve that function, no one can cheat the system. So what we have in the end, instead of having one central institution that authorizes, we have n number of decentralized authorities that come in and out of the system. What do the miners get as a benefit? They get Bitcoins. And where do they get the Bitcoins from? See, I sent Gaston 1 Bitcoin, but the miner got how many? 25 Bitcoins. Where did they come from, these 25 bitcoins? Out of nowhere, out of the blue? Money was issued. The only way in which you can issue money or bitcoins that's what the miners get for validating transactions. That's why they are called miners. Where does gold come from? From just one place, from the gold mines, from the miners. Miners bring new gold. That is why they are called miners. But the name is wrong, because the miner is not a speculator who takes advantage, because in the case of gold, they want to make money as soon as possible. But the miner is someone who provides hardware so that the Bitcoin system works by validating all transactions. So it's a genuine work. It's not speculation at all. It's something concrete, specific. So let me proceed. The miners. I'm simplifying this very much, but one of the simplifications, I said that they validated one transaction at a time, but that's not the case. They work in blocks of hundreds of transactions, and they validate them all together. There are blocks of transactions. When the block is approved, the block is sealed. It cannot be opened, and from then on the block can never change. And they inform Gaston that he can receive the Bitcoin, and they create a new block. And the miners start fighting for the new transactions in the new block. So what we have, the only thing we have in the Bitcoins is a set of blocks, The name that Satoshi used is blockchain, a blockchain, he called it. Now, if you look at this carefully, the only thing we have here is a set of transactions. That's why I say that accountants will love it. This is the journal. Satoshi produced a journal that is universal. Instead of each company having a journal for their accounts, he produced a universal journal where all the transactions of the world are included. Instead of having accounts and entries in the ledger, he called them address, or instead of entry, transaction, but that's the same idea. The only difference regarding the normal accounting is that one of the legs refers to the 25 bitcoins that come out of the blue, but all the rest is really the same. Now, look at what Satoshi wanted to do. He did not want to depend on anybody or a central institution to authorize the transaction. We now have a lot of miners. That's not a problem. Now, this blockchain, where is the blockchain? Where is the ledger? Where do I store it? Another idea he had, if a student had suggested this to me, I would have said, this is not going to work. You know nothing about information technology. But it worked. He duplicated it everywhere. As I don't want to have it in a central place, it will be everywhere. Everybody who wants to see the blockchain can take it home. They can do that. That's not a problem. Just to give you an idea, the blockchain today is about 322,000 blocks, 30 giga. That's the size of the blockchain today. But this is something that grows over time. Now, anybody can see this ledger. It's public. Let me show it to you. First, what is the GeneXus block? What was the first entry in the blockchain? The first block is called the GeneXus block. The GeneXus block is the first block created by Satoshi. It had an address. It was Satoshi's address, and it had 50 bitcoins. I know Satoshi had 50 bitcoins when the world started in 2009. The first block then had 50 bitcoins. as the account number of Satoshi is there, I know how many bitcoins he mined in his lifetime. He mined 1 million bitcoins. I know with precision how many bitcoins he had. Now, let's see one interesting software problem. The first block was created, the second, the third, fine so far. Now, the block is nowhere because it is duplicated. And if there's something we learn in software is if something is duplicated, over the years it will become inconsistent. If everything is duplicated, at some point, some inconsistency will emerge. And here Satoshi did something fabulous. Imagine the miners are working to create a new block. Imagine that Uruguay, for some reason, is outside the internet for a few seconds. But the miners who are working in Uruguay keep on working. So what's going to happen is that the ledger will not follow just one block, and it will split into 2 blocks. And this is quite a problem. I'm not going to explain how he solved it, but he solved it in the end. And the largest chain will defeat the shortest chain. But Satoshi also found a way to solve a problem that we in information technology could never solve, how to maintain the consistency of something that is duplicated everywhere. So that's another topic that Satoshi solved. Now, this ledger does not have an account. It has an address. I'm going to give you my address. This is my address. If you want to send me a Bitcoin, please write down this address, and I will very happily receive your Bitcoins, especially because I mentioned Gaston. Gaston should cooperate here. But normally, as you see, this is very much exaggerated. No one is going to remember this address. So we use this QR code that has this number. In a QR code, you take a picture and you can transfer Bitcoins to me. But there is something different and interesting here. I gave you my account number because let's imagine that Gaston wants to return the Bitcoin I gave him. I have to give him my account number. He knows my account number. I'm showing it to all of you, right? Now look at the other part. I told him that the ledger is public domain. Anyone can access it. You don't need to download it. You go to blockchain.info and you see the ledger there. Now if you look at that accounting book and you enter and put my account number, what will you see? Everything, all my transactions. So it's public. It's a world we never had before. It's as if Gaston were going to make a bank transfer to me. I give him my account number, and I also give him the statement of my account. This did not exist before. So we are moving into a world that is 100% transparent. So when they say that Bitcoins are used by drug traffickers, it's more a myth than a reality. Because one thing for certain, all the movements with the Bitcoins are recorded. Now, the number that I showed you is not associated to my name, but I can do so easily because if I need money be sent to me, I have to publish my account number. It's no longer a secret. I need to publish it. So we are moving into something that never existed before. We are totally transparent. Now, how does it work in practice? Imagine that I want to go like in San Francisco, not in Uruguay, but in San Francisco, I can go and buy coffee and pay with a Bitcoin. How would it work in practice? Well, in practice, all telephones, well, most of them have a wallet. for the Bitcoins. This is my wallet. And I'm showing you, not that I don't have 1,400 Bitcoins. These are mini Bitcoins, like $500, something like that. So I go to a place, and what I need to pay for my coffee is for the coffee shop owner to ask me my account number. It's a QR code. I scan it. I do like this, and that's it. Automatically, thousands of miners in the world will try to validate the transaction. The first one gets 25 Bitcoins, and everybody's happy. It was a very decentralized process where everything happened quickly. Now, look at this. What I call the wallet is not really a wallet. It means that in my telephone, I have these 1,458 mini Bitcoins. What happens if I step on my phone? Do I lose this money? If I have a real wallet and I set it on fire, I will lose my dollars, my real dollars. But what happens with the Bitcoin wallet? No, you never lose that. Where are the Bitcoins? In the blockchain. It's everywhere. It's more than duplicated. The name is wallet, but it's not a real wallet. It's not a repository of value. The value is not there. Now, another surprising thing is that the Bitcoins themselves do not exist. The dollars are tangible. They have an identification. They are unique. But there is no such thing as a number on a Bitcoin. The only thing we have is the ledger that says these 50 Bitcoins went here and there. So the only thing we have is a ledger. That's it. It's the world, for the world of accountants, this is an exaggeration. So this is what the Bitcoin is all about. Let me now explain to you what happened to the miners. Remember that the miners, in fact, are not speculators. They are people who work to validate so that the network works. And they use their hardware. This is the hardware they use. This is a picture sent by a friend in Uruguay. He is the largest miner in Uruguay. These are the machines he uses to mine. These are special machines where the algorithm of the hash is inside the hardware. There is no software. It's within the hardware. Because what miners do is fight for a weapons war. Who has the best hardware to validate transactions as fast as possible? And my friend is a very careful person. He wants to act correctly, but you don't need to be that good in the way you do things. Look at this data center, Stephen. Don't be afraid. This is a data center, Stephen. This is a real case. This is a data center. But here we have miners, machines that mine. This is a barn. This is a cold place. They have ventilators, and they carry on. Because these machines will die anyway. This is the opposite of a traditional data center where we want valuable things that we want to preserve in good conditions. These are machines that will break down at one point and will be substituted for new ones. This is the world of miners. This is so different from what we know. There are no rules as we know them in our world. So far, I told you about what it is. Let's see what happened. What happened? I'm sure that you all want to know the price of a Bitcoin or how it has evolved. You want to know about that? Okay, here it goes. This is the graph that shows the value of Bitcoin from 2009 to date. In 2009, the value was nothing, then it went up, then it got to $1,100, and now it's falling near $400 or maybe under $400. This is the history so far. People who like technical analysis, like Camila, may wonder, is this a fractal? Maybe we have this, which happened in 2010. Is it similar to what happened here or here? This is a fractal. This is something that will probably be repeated, maybe not, I don't know. One thing I learned is that it's very difficult to predict the price of things. I don't know. Let me just give you the indicator that I'm interested in, the one I follow always. How many transactions take place every single day with Bitcoins? Are there more or less transactions? That's the most important indicator regarding Bitcoin. This is the graph showing the transactions. It's a growing draft. It's around 70,000 daily transactions, around $50 million a day. That's an interesting number, but it's not spectacular. That is why I'm saying that we are at a stage when we do not know who the winner will be. We know that it's a growing number, that we are using more and more Bitcoin transactions, but I don't know how far it will keep growing. This is the figure we are checking today. Now, let's see what Bitcoin means. I told you what it is and how it has behaved, but it's very interesting for us to know what it has meant to the world. At least it represents three things: a global assets registry, a new kind of currency like we never had before, and a new kind of payment system. What is a new asset registry? Satoshi used it as a currency or coin, but that's not the only purpose. I could register the car transfers. Who's the owner of each car in the world? Instead of having the kind of registries we have today, we could use this mechanism. It's perfect. And instead of Bitcoins, we know who is the owner of each car and what was the story of transfers. That never existed in the world, never this possibility for a global assets registry. This is something new, and we still do not know how useful it will be. Remember when the PCs came out, nobody knew what they were going to be useful for, and the same was true with the web. This is also something new, never existed before. What are you saying? We cannot hear what he's saying. Who's going to give you the 25 additional cars? Well, we'll talk to Satoshi and we'll find out. Okay, just to give you an idea. In the case, that's my invention, but there is another coin. It's not called Bitcoin. It's called Namecoin, to know who's the owner of each domain in the Internet. We know who's the owner of that domain, and the currency is called Namecoin in this case. In this case, I will call it car coin, and that's it. It will work. Okay. The other thing is a new type of currency. And this is where we have trouble with the economists. The economists don't like this that I am going to say, but I'll try to be as objective as possible. This is a new type of currency because it has some peculiarities that so far in the history of mankind we've never seen the properties. The first thing is that it moves like cash. It moves like cash. If I have a Bitcoin and I pass it to Gaston, it's his. I cannot say it was a fraud because it's the same with cash. It's not fraud. I can go to a court and say that he compelled me to do that, but it's different. The point is, in certain cases it behaves like cash, but it has another property. Unlike cash, when the dollar left, nobody knows where it is. There's no traceability with cash. This one has full traceability. I know exactly what happened with each of the money transfers in the world if they are using Bitcoins. There never was currency with full traceability, apart from being very interesting for people who collect taxes. This is going to be very interesting for economists because they will be able to have real data on how an economy behaves. They will have real quantitative data. Juan will love it because he will know how the economy is behaving. This is not a qualitative opinion. It's a real quantitative opinion. You just have to go to the blockchains and do analysis. The third point is, and this is where all the mess starts, who issues the bitcoins? An algorithm. What is the algorithm like? It's very simple. The first block was given to people, the first miner was given 50 bitcoins. The first 250,000 blocks got 50 bitcoins. Then every 210 blocks, it's divided into two. That's why somebody said that for every bitcoin, the miners get 25 bitcoins. As we finish the blocks, we will move on, 12.5 and so on. Before you end your calculation, Satoshi said that the conclusion was that by the year 2100, the 21 million bitcoins will be issued and no more bitcoins will be issued after that. Well, that is not very intuitive for an economist. See that all the theories around issuing, Satoshi comes and said no one is going to regulate what is being issued. That will be done by an algorithm. But the secondary effect, and this I think is the key issue why economists don't like it, is that in a way it's a deflationary currency. This means a currency, because an inflationary currency is issued more and more. So if the currency is issued more and more, its value is being reduced. Now, a deflationary currency is not issued, and there will come a point when it will no longer be issued. So it will, its value will go up and up. I learned one thing from economists. It's more lethal. Deflation is more lethal than inflation. That is why many countries, and we included, can live with a level of inflation for a long time and people go on living. But you don't have histories of countries that were deflationary for a long time. Why? Because if I have a currency that whose value is going to be lower and lower, I will buy more things. But if I have a currency that will have more and more value, the products will be of less value as time goes by. And I will buy my car today, and it will be cheaper tomorrow, so I don't buy it. I wait. But if everybody waits, the economy will collapse and the world will disappear. No, you don't? Well, don't tell the economists that I talked about this.
Bueno, pero el asunto que dice que...
So the issue is that bitcoins are said to be badly designed, and that is said to be the main defect of bitcoins. Well, there's a whole chain of people who are saying why this cannot be applied, or why IT assets are deflationary, and however they are still bought. So there's a whole chain here of criticism. But I just want to tell you that here there's something interesting. Actually, I never understood whether Satoshi did this on purpose or he just wanted to have a certain stability at a certain point or something like that. So this is a new kind of register, a new kind of currency, and also this is a new kind of payment system. If you analyze the payment forms that we have today, credit cards, remittances among countries, they're all expensive systems that were invented before the internet was invented. And the cost that a merchant has, maybe he's charged 6% per transaction, or someone who sends money from the US to Uruguay and is charged a lot of money for that, that's based on a protocol that's behind that, was pre-internet. So here we have a way where there are almost no fees. So far, I had said that the transfer has no cost whatsoever, but it's a very, very minor cost beside from the 25 bitcoins that the miner receives. I did that just to simplify this story, but it's a really insignificant fee in terms of what credit cards charge. And there's also an important thing. There is no fraud here. It behaves like cash. The great hidden cost of payment systems now is fraud. So merchants that realize that when you were paid with a certain credit card, this was not a valid transaction because it was stolen, etc., etc. So this is a new payment system, a new global payment system that had never existed before. Who are Bitcoin users, and where could I use Bitcoins? Well, basic thing, that's for paying a coffee, paying things, paying for any type of retail operations. Actually, there are more and more merchants that are accepting these type of payments. The other are peer-to-peer payments. The most typical example is when you have money remittances. There's a huge amount of people who are sending money to their families, and they have to pay a huge commission for that. This potentially is disruptive in terms of remittance system. The other thing is donations. Wikipedia accepts donations, and this is the easiest and fastest way to donate. It has an account number, you transfer the money, and that's automatic. It works perfectly well. And the other thing is to pay for content. I said that I read someone else's paper who interpreted Satoshi, and by the end of the paper, I was able to understand what the whole idea was about. And he said, if you like this content, please send me some bitcoins, some mini bitcoins, actually. And I transferred him some mini bitcoins. If you want to know how many of those bitcoins I sent him, you can get into the blockchain and you can see. Maybe I was a bit stingy about the money the bitcoins that I sent, but since everybody knows what I'm doing and it's transparent, you can see how much bitcoins I sent. But this starts to enable other types of behaviors that we didn't have before. To pay for content was something that was highly unlikely so far, and this could become much more practical and feasible. Who are Bitcoin users? Who's interested in this working very well? First of all, merchants, of course, because they somehow save the costs that traditional payment systems have. Second, consumers. And here we have the classical problem of the chicken and egg problem. Merchants will accept bitcoins because there are consumers who have bitcoins. Consumers will buy bitcoins because there are merchants. Someone else, where can you get those bitcoins? How can you get them? Where do you get them? Well, maybe in a couple of meters away from here, you will be able to obtain them. There's a page, bitcoin.uruguay, and you say, if I want to transfer a certain amount of dollars, and you can go to Red Pago's offices, you deposit that, and what will that office do? Nothing, but the page behind that will appear in your wallet, in whatever account you have in Bitcoin, all the Bitcoins that you bought. So this is super, super easy in any place in the world to buy Bitcoins. There's nothing strange about it. It's really easy. Then others were interested in making this work are miners. My friend the miner is really interested in this working well. Others who are interested are speculators. As I said, this is a deflationary currency. So I have 1 Bitcoin today, and economists were right. With time, it will value more and more. It will be worth more money. So some speculators are already thinking about this. Ultimately, the price has fallen down. So I think some speculators might have disappeared, but that's a possibility. And then we have entrepreneurs. Why? I think that Bitcoin today is at the same place PCs used to be before spreadsheets. it was something interesting, but people were wondering, what is it good for? Same thing that happened with the web before 1991. People said, this is interesting, the hyperlink, but what it is good for, until someone made a browser, a navigator. So I think that Bitcoin is right at that point. What we have is really interesting, but the key thing, the spreadsheet or the browser, has not been invented yet. So whoever discovers a killer application for this, I think that's the prize will be huge for him. So, to conclude my presentation, let me sum up. First of all, it is a genuine invention. I've tried to make this presentation with no reference whatsoever to mass media. If you take a look at what the press had to say about this, they were absolutely negative. So I haven't talked about the press. If there's something that I would like you to remember about Bitcoin, it's a genuine invention. It never existed before until 2009. It did not exist, and when you see it, it's incredible to see what was done, and you might think that it would not work. Second point is, it has a potential for disrupting the financial industry that's huge. It could be the same change that the press had with the advent of the web. It has the potential to do such disruption. Please remember, if I have Bitcoins, the money is not deposited anywhere. So there's no problem in it being stolen from me, because it is absolutely everywhere, unless I'm stolen, the password is stolen from me. I simplified many things in this presentation. I told you about an account number. You can see what I have, but for you to be able to take those Bitcoins away, you need a password. It's a public keyword and private keyword. There's cryptography involved there. This was just a simplification for you to get a general idea of this. There's increased usage. The number of transactions that are going on with time keeps on growing more and more. And to conclude, it has not reached the tipping point yet. The tipping point is the point where success is guaranteed. And Bitcoins have not reached that tipping point yet. So far, I've tried to be fully objective with this. Let me be subjective now. I will tell you what I think about it. The first thing, in this emotional moment, I want to make Satoshi Nakamoto one of my heroes. He will be in a pedestal for me. But paraphrasing Lelutier, who said this was a heck of a watch, this is a heck of a system, what he managed to invent. And when we analyze all the things that he invented, we should say chapeau. He is a great engineer. Second thing, is this successful? Well, I presented this not to convince you whether this will be successful or not. I just talked about this so that you have an idea about this, so that you know what this is about. But if you ask me, will this be successful? I really don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, we are very busy with the event right now, but I've asked Maria Laura that on Thursday, when she will have more time, maybe she can go to Artec, to the door, and she could put this notice: we're accepting Bitcoins here for every GeneXus product. Thank you very much.